this show, you'll find inspiration, motivation, and advice from experts, as well as valuable tips on how to get started or improve your business. Let's dive into how you can begin and grow your wisdom business. Inspiring others looks different for everyone. How will you inspire? Welcome to the Wise Zone podcast, and today we're chatting with Kylee Leota. Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks, Nikki, for having me.
Lovely, lovely. Well, I have gone, every time we have a guest on, we do a little bit of research about who we're chatting to, but I've seen your name pop up a number of times, and also I have seen that, you were the finalist in the Beam Awards this year, which is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was honestly, it was one of the things I've never really put myself out there in the award space. So to get to the finals was huge. Got to be in a room with 200 finalists of all different categories. And it's that surround yourself with greatness stuff. And I just came away feeling even more inspired. There's some people that get intimidated by greatness. I'm totally inspired by it. So it was just so exciting.
It is
beautiful
really
people.
Oh yeah, God, I love Becky's just awesome, and Annette.
Yes,
she's
amazing,
brilliant. Oh yeah, absolutely awesome. But no, congratulations on that. But hey, let's introduce you. Tell us about yourself and what it is that inspired you to start your knowledge business online.
Yeah, so I probably am a little bit different from some people because I already started out in the knowledge business. I was an educator for a long time. Yeah. So I was a knowledge person that went into business rather than the business person that went into knowledge. So I did it a bit reverse engineered, I guess. And so I was in education for a long time. I like to just add a plus after the numbers now because it makes me feel a little bit old when I start going into how long I was in there. But what really happened for me is a couple of years ago, the universe works in mysterious ways, and probably the last couple of years in education, there've been a lot of changes in systems and we know governments and systems and processes, and it just wasn't aligning to my true north anymore. And I was in this real rumbling phase in my life. I am a single mum of 3 kids, so had this sense of duty and responsibility. I was a deputy principal. So whilst being an educator is hard work, and we do, often talk about our pay rights and everything, I was on a very secure income as a single mum with 3 kids. And so universally had tried to be a little bit subtle, saying, Kylee, you need to just check in how things are going. And of course, I wasn't really good at picking up what the universe was putting down. So it sat me on my bum and I got an injury. I'd love to say I was doing something really cool, but I rolled over in bed to get away from my youngest kid, did something to myself. So it was one of those really classy injuries. Yeah. And at the time I was training at Muay Thai Fitness, and I wish I'd done it there because I'm imagine what the other guy looked like. But no, it wasn't anything that spectacular. It was literally like an old mum injury. I rolled over and did something. And I had this real period of, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then it was just the universe was saying, hey, you haven't been happy for a while. I'm going to make you reflect and sit down and notice what you love, which is knowledge sharing and empowering, and get rid of all the stuff that you don't like, which is timetabling and, paperwork kind of ideas around that kind of stuff. So it allowed me to craft and pivot and recalibrate into this new role, which is, I call myself an accidental business owner because I kind of didn't go out with the mindset of being a business owner, but have been, and now a multi-business owner. So I now have 3 businesses, all about empowering people to build their knowledge and share that and empower each other. And so from there, it was just one of those things that's kind of grown and grown and grown. And I love what I do. So I coach in leadership and high performance teams. That's one area of my passions. And the reason being is, if anyone's ever worked a job, one of the defining factors is your leadership, whether that job is a great job, whether a job that you hate, whether you like going to work, whether you don't like going to work. And in actual fact, I don't know, for many people, myself included, I didn't get leadership support until I was already a leader. I didn't do any training. It was oh my gosh, I want to apply for a job. Bada bing, bada boom, here I am.
Yeah.
Now figure it out. And I'm oh, that's not the best way to do it either. And I've seen some really good people do really amazing things, but I've seen some really good people not do that very well.
When they're already in the job and
like I didn't know what it was to be a leader, and it was only through my own knowledge seeking and personal growth journey that I kind of got better at that. And I look at when I was a good leader and when I wasn't a good leader, and the difference was empowering myself in that space. And that from kind of led into really what I'm passionate about is helping people with self-leadership, so understanding themselves so they can lead themselves. And whether you're a mum, whether you're a dad, whether you're a parent, whether you're in corporate, if you can't lead yourself, you're not very good at leading others. And I look at that in my own role as a mum, but I also look at my own role in business. I've needed to keep that journey going along the way and had to understand myself and lead myself most effectively so that I can be the most effective leader in whatever role, whatever hat I'm wearing on that particular day. So I help people navigate that. And I also have a really strong background in neurodiversity. So over 25 years of working in neurodiversity, complex behavior, disability, and trauma, and how that impacts how we show up and helping people navigate that through that without judgment. And being able to hold space for people's different lenses of the world that have come about through their different experiences and help them find new strategies that are going to serve them better moving forward. So a lot of people come to me because what's happening for them is no longer serving them personally, professionally, and how to help them move through that. And I have, as you can see behind me in the books, quite nerdy about making sure that I've got access to lots of information to help support people, because it's not a one-size-fits-all model.
No,
and I think everyone needs something a little bit different, and I help people navigate that, understand their own lens, find strategies that work for them, like Mary Poppins pulling strategies out of a bag instead of things. To help them lead themselves and then effectively lead the other people in their world, whether that be personally or professionally.
And that you a good point there, purposeful strategy. It's like, you don't just pull out a strategy just for the sake of it. It has to apply to your audience. And you can tell you obviously that mindset of education background, understanding what the pure end goal is or who it is that you're teaching. That's a huge thing that, we should touch on actually in this case, especially with your educational background and understanding, because I think so many people do go out there to become a coach. And I think it's very inspirational when a lot of people do go out there and they say, look, I have all this wealth of information. I want to share it. But then there's this roadblock all of a sudden where they say, oh, hang on a minute, how do I share it? And they share it based on what makes them feel comfortable, which is great. And that's perfect to on a level, but there is that next level of, well, the person who's absorbing the information needs to be able to absorb it. And I appreciate the fact that you do consider that side as well, especially on the element of there's different stories or environments that affect the learner or the teacher as well.
And even being able for people to be able to receive knowledge and information that is impacted by previous experiences. And so it doesn't matter what role you've had. Very few people in life have skated through life with really positive experiences around learning, because we tend to learn things the hard way, unfortunately. So even if you were good at school, you may have probably had some really harsh learnings in another environment. So we've all got ways, and we're not always conscious to our own learning style. Exactly. And I have recognized, I'm a knowledge enthusiast, but I hate online self-paced programs. Can't my brain doesn't work.
No.
Right? I get energy from being around people, and I get energy from just engaging. And so even if I have to go away and do it myself, I've got a degree, right? So theoretically, that should be an easy process to navigate for me. Plus, I love education, I love learning, but it's not my style of learning. And I've fallen over on more than one course, but on the I should be able to idea, rather than just acknowledging I'm a different type of learner that needs kinesthetic experiences. I love the energy in the room. I love having sounding boards. I love doing all of that stuff. That's where I thrive as a learner. But not everyone's the same way. And when I deliver information in coaching or in courses, I often say to people, how do you consume knowledge? Do you like to read? Do you like to YouTube? Do you like to have snap bite-sized chunks of information, because that tailors the way that I present information to them.
Yeah.
In terms of, and that's one of the things I think, it's that not the one-size-fits-all model. And I think one of the things I've learned over 25 years of working in diversity is that you can't deliver it the same way to everybody. And that's why traditional education is seemingly less and less effectively, being less and less effective, because we've still got a model that everyone goes into the classroom and everyone's going to respond in this particular way and everyone's going to be able to consume knowledge. And you've got some really, really smart kids, really amazing learners that just don't consume knowledge that way.
Not that way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I talk about creative solutions to traditional problems. So creative solutions in the way that we learn. And this is my space, but I have a 3-story
we have a
building,
bonus episode,
and I have hammocks downstairs, and I run I have clients that sit in the hammock because that's the best way that they process information, and I bring out the whiteboard. I have people that need to sit at a desk. I also have a couch. I also have a gigantic crash mat called Big Jeff. And some of my clients like to lie down, adults and young people, because that's the best way that they consume. Some people prefer Zoom. Some people really don't like Zoom. So we tailor and bespoke that.
So
but first of all, we have to help them understand what works best for them.
Some entrepreneurs and their stories and their passions of why they're actually building their businesses. So early next week,
this isn't just the normal line of conversation or anything, but I would love to ask you,
be sure to listen out for that one. It is really inspiring.
You're looking to decide on how you're going to deliver your knowledge online. And as you mentioned, you sort of touched on it in the sense of everyone's different, right? So what if you do have a room, and in your case, awesome, you were able to deliver that in different ways, in the sense of deliver an environment that they could learn in different ways. What if you are looking to do this as, look, we know the economy is airy at the moment. We really don't have any solid foundation, solid idea of what the economy is doing to a degree, but people might be sitting there saying, you know what, I want to go out there and share my knowledge, and the easiest way I'm going to do it is online. How do you go about, how would you suggest anyone looking to go in that direction to decide, all right, what things should they ask themselves to decide the direction they should go into, one, teach, and once they've worked that out, how could they ask their students how they want to learn?
Yeah,
it's a huge question, but
no, I think it's a really great one, because I think there's so many. We are not deprived of knowledge these days in terms of access.
Yeah.
In actual fact, the problem now is there's so much, it's hard to pick out which one works for you. So if you go to a course, they're like, you need to post 7 times a day and you need to do this and do this. And if that's not, I've sat in things, and I'm an extrovert, clearly. I know that might be hard for people to realize from this very short amount of time. But even me, as a person that's naturally extroverted, goes into these things and goes, holy mother, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't find that really useful. So I think the first thing, the most impactful thing I would say if you're going to teach is understand how you like to teach and find an audience that likes to receive the message you like, the way that you like to deliver it. So you cannot be all things to all people.
No.
So be really good for your people.
Yeah.
I think that would be one of my best pieces of advice. So I'm not everyone's cup of tea, because not everyone likes to do what I like to do, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm pretty good at reading a room, I will know before I go in, because I've worked with diversity for so long, pretty good at reading who I can call out in a group, who I should leave alone in a group, all of those kind of things.
Yeah, yeah.
But I actually do a lot of pre-teaching. So I will say, we're going to do this today. So, let me know. I also have notepads or sticky notes, I have sticky notes on my desk. So if people want to ask questions, I don't want to put up their hand. So you can do similar types of models. And I was on a thing yesterday where you can actually, instead of posting your questions into the chat, which people might be really shy about, you can actually set up a little form that goes off to the side that they can put it in, and it gets fed back into the presenter, so that they can be anonymous or they can choose to have their name.
Wow.
So there's lots of different ways of being able to engage that in terms of your audience. I also think set the expectations up front. You can ask questions if you're onboarding people into a course, you can ask, and maybe, it's having all of your content, but maybe you've got a long form video and a couple of short forms of the same thing. It's just broken up.
Yeah.
Would you like your information presented this way or this way? Yeah. I know with young people I used to work with, if you had a worksheet, some people could handle a lot of information on that one worksheet. Some people liked it broken up. So these are some things that once you've established them and got your forms or your content or whatever, it's just a matter of a bit of splicing here and there in terms of what that looks like. Yeah. So you might be able to have two options that people can access. I think there are a couple of the key things. I think understanding your students would be just, again, encouraging them to have that option where they can share publicly and privately, and also building trust. I think that's fundamental if you want people to consume and actually follow through on your courses, because, again, there's so much statistics out there at the moment about the incompletion rates. Mm-hmm. But if you've got knowledge you want to share, and if you've decided to create a course, it's genuinely because you want to help.
Yeah.
That's probably my other one. If you're out there to just make money, you're probably not going to be as successful as if you actually authentically want to make a difference.
People say
yeah, 100%. So I'm really passionate about, if you want to do that, it's just around ask your audience. Let them know that they can message you off, on chat or email as well as, and then, maybe stick to maybe 2 ways that they can do it, so it's not overwhelming for you to try and navigate, because I was trying to be on something a while ago and they had 17 different platforms and I couldn't keep up. And again, I was just like, the camp, the fire, the who, the base, the thing, the what, I don't know. Can we just pick a lane? I can do Facebook group and I can do a WhatsApp message, or I can do a Facebook group and I can do whatever.
Yeah.
But so pick ones that start for you and just start small. And again, people will know and you'll build trust over time, I believe.
Yeah. And that comes down to the being present. Obviously, yes, you need to be present, for your community, but I think where you are present too, because that will confuse the hell out of them. And then they just won't get in contact with you because they'll be like, I have no idea if she's going to even respond to me. So that presence and response is so important. Sure. How quick you respond to, obviously, based on their needs. But what with respect to what you teach, obviously, you decided it was time to sort of change. What inspired you to actually go into the field of, the direction you are in?
Most things come out of a pain point. Yeah. And I have experienced really unsafe leaders. And I've watched many, many friends who are particularly awesome what they do suffer, their career trajectories change from not having safe spaces to do brave and courageous work. So I talk a lot about self-leadership, understanding self, but that also comes from having a psychologically safe place to navigate that, right? So it's all well and good for everyone to say, oh, look, tell me what you're thinking, and then that person then uses it against you at a later point. Yeah. So I'm really, really passionate. And what I've seen in my however long, in doing this work, from my very first job as a checkout chick, and I'll date myself here because my first job was at Franklin's, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Franklin's and Jules, yeah.
Right, so I'm totally dating myself right now. To all the young people in the room, it's an old grocery store like Woolworths and Coles, but not as fancy.
No name.
No name. That was actually the ad. No frills. No frills. Yeah. But I can tell you I had really great leaders, and those leaders didn't give me what I wanted all the time, but they listened.
Yeah.
And helped me figure out who I was. And the leaders that weren't. And I didn't have language for it back then. I didn't have language for what it felt when I felt like I really wanted to work for this person, or I really didn't want to work for this person, or I really felt safe to learn from this person, and I really didn't feel safe to learn from this person. I felt like it would be used against me and weaponized. So I think from that pain point of not having great experiences myself, personally and professionally, I wanted to show people what was positive if they got the right supports around them and right access to information.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's a lot of things when it comes to how we share our knowledge online and who we share it with. And we're we've mentioned this already, but the environment that we come from and the experiences we have does lead us to the why and what inspires us to, it will activate us to get into that motion of, no, I need to help other people because I went through this, it's the usual thing. But what keeps you going now? So what keeps you evolving in your business? Like, one, where are you thinking of, evolving it further? Are there stories that, you've had in the past, from students that you've taught that keep you going?
Yeah. So there's a couple of, I'm a really pretty big thinker, a visionary thinker, which can be scary for some. So what happened was I started out in this business. So Elements for Success comes from the quote, Earl Nightingale determines success as the ongoing progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. And I love that definition of success because I think people have a bit of a skewed idea about what success looks like. And then elements comes from, there's lots of different elements that make that up. And what you need to be successful, Nikki, might look different to what I need to be successful. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And then when I started doing this journey and had some really positive experiences and some really big wins, people getting promotions really quickly because we developed their skills. Again, self-leadership first, always back to self first before we went out. Saw them getting some really good wins on the board, and I was like, okay, how can I support and empower more people more impactfully?
Mm-hmm.
And then that neurodiversity space for me is something that I think is so, first of all, I think there's a lot of, NDIS has been a really big gift, but I also think it's brought out a lot of people that maybe not have the same integrity around working for and to the benefit of the neurodiverse person or the person that might need that support.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really passionate about that particular space. And I had a young person, started working with them a couple of years ago, had been written off by the school, been written off by the education system, been written off even by their own doctors, and said, look, this is kind of the trajectory that they were going down. They'd broken their mum's nose twice by the time they were 13. They had really, not really helpful behaviours and had multiple diagnoses. And what we did in that last couple of years is help them understand how the way that they process information, the lens in which they show that they view the world, and how to pivot through that so it's a strength, not a deficit. Mm-hmm. And in actual fact, they got accepted into uni with a Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science and a $2,000 scholarship.
Wow.
And this was from a kid that was basically not going to finish year 10.
Mm.
And what it took was someone being able to hold space for them to navigate their thoughts and their feelings and help them be able to take actions that were impactful and were going to serve them.
Yeah. It didn't concentrate on the negatives. It concentrated on the learnings and the positives out of the actions that they, Yeah.
And what happened is, we would talk about the rigidity. This person with neurodiversity had a diagnosis of ASD, which means that sometimes flexible thinking is difficult.
Mm.
So we said, well, cool. Your diagnosis makes that difficult, but it doesn't make it impossible. It means that when you're calm, you're more able to be more open-minded. When you're dysregulated, you're not. So we have to work on staying calm and making those decisions in the right time and space, right?
Yeah.
And also having people that he could ask questions to that weren't going to judge him. So I get this text message, hey, Kylee, can you read this and tell me why I've misinterpreted this? Now, for the first time in his life, he had someone asking him. He had someone to ask instead of judging him for his behaviours.
Yeah.
And that is so true in leadership.
Yeah.
We need that in leadership because leaders, I can tell you as a leader, I didn't want to let anybody know why I wasn't coping or I didn't have the skills.
Yeah, because
I didn't want to tell my boss. I didn't want to tell my boss because I didn't want them to think I was incompetent. I didn't want to tell my team because I'm the person that's supposed to have it all together.
It's really,
So who did I talk to? No one.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to see how I could have impact in that space because I knew what it was like. It's a very isolating space. And I think so many of us feel isolated. And the clients that I talk to all the time, first of all, they say, oh my gosh, you really get it. And then second of all, they're like, this is the first time I've ever told anyone this stuff.
Right.
But it's not about, I guess, letting them get away with stuff. It's around creating that safe space for that brave and courageous work for them to pivot and, go, oh my gosh, this is really awful. That's probably a nicer word than what they use sometimes. This is really awful. I don't like what's going on. But usually it's because they don't have the tools to then navigate the next step. So our job is to help find those tools. And again, because I've had lots more experience, then, you've only got your very narrow view of the world from our own experience. So sometimes we don't have trusted people that we can go to maybe explore what other options are out there. And that's part of this learning journey.
You brought up a really good point there where you said, not letting people, like, they can't get away with it by their actions. And that's an interesting part, isn't it? When you are a leader, there's that balance between leading and being someone people can turn to, and the fine line of friendship, that sort of audience.
Well, I think a leader. Look, so I have done it badly as a leader that didn't have support to navigate this journey, that was flying blind, right? I've done a really good job of it, and I've really had to. And I think particularly my upbringing was of that people-pleasing nature. And so I was bending over backwards, tying myself in knots. And the last 5 years, or 3 or 4 years particularly, all this work has come out about boundaries. Now, here's the thing. As a people pleaser, that's not an easy piece of work, right? And the propensity to stuff it up because you're not used to having a boundary, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to have one. And then I call it the rubber band effect, right? Yeah, the hard no boundary. Yeah, the next time you say that to me, I'm never going to speak to you again. Oh, no, here we are. What am I going to do? Yeah. So I call it the rubber band effect, and probably the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? Okay. Between not having a boundary and having a really hard boundary. Probably the answer. And I always joke about parenting's that real, my mum had a particular thing on how to do something, I'm like, oh, I'm so not going to be that parent. I'm going to be over here. And in actual fact, sitting over here going, oh, well, that was dumb.
I was probably
it's probably somewhere in the middle, somewhere along the line, right? But I think that's true as a leader. And I think my greatest leadership journey has been my parenting. I think it's probably been the biggest leadership role I've ever had, because I can't give them back at the end of the day. They don't clock off at 5, right? Yeah. But in actual fact, the greatest gift in terms of a leader, how to repair, how to be accountable without being an asshole, quite frankly, because I think that's things we do as leaders, that we think we have to be a certain way. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm more than happy for your audience to correct me if I'm wrong, but I have had women leaders who felt they needed to take on a very masculine type of approach, but in actual fact ended up being worse than the men as leaders, not because they're not good people, but because of a narrative they thought they had to be to survive as a leader in that male-dominated space. When in actual fact, had they allowed themselves to be authentically themselves with some of that feminine, they actually probably would have done a much better job than the men combined, because they allowed them to be authentically who they are. Yeah. So helping people, again, and that comes back to self-leadership, right? Understanding yourself, being okay with yourself, and recognizing that you've got these gifts to give people if you keep yourself regulated and keep yourself calm, and also understand yourself, know your trigger points, so that you go, okay, I'm just going to pause for a minute right here, because that's a thing for me. I'm just going to circle back and come back here, rather than getting hijacked by all of those things. So, and as you get to online courses, as you would well know, the keyboard warriors are prolific. So you have to do this self-leadership work, because you need to understand, so that you're not triggered by that, and you're able to let that go through the keeper far more easily. I didn't say it doesn't hurt sometimes, but being able to let that go to the keeper far more, because you're aligned to your vision and your purpose and your passion and that why that you talked about a little bit earlier. Because if you know your why, your purpose is more impactful.
I love that. I like that line. If you know your why, your purpose is more impactful. I like that.
Yeah, I love it. And that, so I was having a conversation with someone this morning, and I even get, goosebumps when I'm talking about it myself. So a very long-winded, so I started off with Elements for Success. I've also now got this space that because during COVID, the one thing I missed from being in an educational environment was collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And around my area, couldn't really find, up in Queensland and Brisbane, there wasn't anything on the south side. So I've created a co-working and an event space for people that maybe want to get together. We're having a Women in Business event next Wednesday, the 23rd of August, if anyone wants to come along. Then from that, I also saw some gaps around the fact that we've got a whole tomorrow's leaders are the kids and teenagers of today, right? And if we don't want a sense of we all bang on about entitlement and privilege and all of this stuff that we think our young people have, but we've created it.
Yeah.
So how do we close that skill gap for them so they can be impactful leaders of the future? Because they're going to be leaders regardless of whether we want them to be or not. So we might as well give them the tools now to do that more effectively and not wait. So I'm just kicking off Elements for Growth, which is another business, to be able to create that space. We're going to run programs on financial literacy and a few of these other things because we know that people are missing skills through COVID, through life experiences. But again, where's a safe and supportive environment for them to navigate that journey? Yeah. Most people don't want to be bad at what they do, but maybe not have the access. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to create safe spaces. And again, collaborative practice for therapists to come in and support that journey as well. So that's really exciting.
That is very exciting. That is an awesome initiative that you're sort of creating there for kids of the next gen. So I think, or adults of the next gen, I should say. Anyway.
Yeah, and families as well. Yeah. So families are trying to navigate this space. Life is complex. And if you don't, we've kind of gone past COVID, merged everybody's life together. Leaders could no longer say, leave your home life at the door because your home life was in the door. It was, your work was in the home life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think people have realized that that's now okay. But so if you've got stuff going on personally, it impacts the way you show up professionally, which has always happened, but we've never been allowed to do it. Yeah. And same thing, professionally, personally, it impacts because we've got that very blurred line. So if we don't provide services that support people to navigate that, then they're not going to be their best selves in any environment. So let's help close that gap for everyone.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because you get a number of people, and especially there's different personas. We have our online persona. You are a course creator, you're teaching, you're an expert in this area, you're a coach, whatever it is. So you're presenting in a particular way, and then it comes down to, well, all right, I'm at home now, I'm a different person, take that hat off, put a new hat on, and so forth. But when essentially it comes down to it, we're still carrying the same ethics, we're still carrying the same education, knowledge, triggers, all that sort of stuff is exactly the same. And it comes down to the whole, we work to live, not live to work. So it does mold no matter what you do. I would love to ask, what legacy are you looking to leave?
This is a piece that I talk about in my work as well, because I was talking to someone a little while ago and they're like, I don't plan to leave a legacy. And I'm like, interesting. My reflection is you leave one whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
So be conscious about what that legacy looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Glennon Doyle from the book Untamed, she has this quote that says, my children don't need me to save them. They need to watch me save myself. And my legacy is that I'm hoping to leave is for people to realize that if they don't like their circumstance, they have the power to change it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that you do not have to settle for less than you are worth, and that you need to make sure that you're putting yourself in the right room with the right people, with the right supports that are going to build you up. And in actual fact, if we've got time, I've got a little story about this. So
yes.
Let me, I'm an educator, right? So let me paint a visual for you. I'm at a school swimming carnival, 50-meter pool, outdoors pool. And I had a young Sudanese refugee student who had a brain tumor in the right side of his brain. He was a beautiful young boy, and he wanted to be so included and accepted into everything that we ever did. Anyway, swimming carnival, he goes, Miss, I'm a really good swimmer. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, not as confident as you are that this is going to be good, right? But hey, empowerment, let's go. We'll go down the pool, we'll navigate this. So he gets called out. His name gets called out in the middle of the pool. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're gonna come to the edge of the pool. But hey, lane 8, this is you. Cool, we've got this. And I said to the PE staff, I said, oh, what happens if this doesn't go as well as we planned? He goes, and typical PE staff, I don't know where you are if it's the same, but it's like, should be right, mate.
Should be right, yeah.
Classic PE line, right? Should be fine. It'll be right. Sweet as, right? Anyway, this kid dove in the pool, and I have never seen a human sink like a rock so fast in my whole entire life. So I'm looking at the PE staff, and I'm looking at the kid, and I'm like, damn it. And I dive in to the pool. And I dive in, and I'm down there, and he's panicked, right? And at that moment, all he's thinking about is how to build himself back up to get out of the pool. So he starts using my head as leverage to push me down so that he goes up, right? Yeah. And so note, it was the very first and last time I ever wore a white T-shirt to a school swimming carnival. Never again. That was my first lesson. My second lesson is this was such a huge analogy for what people do in life. In order to push themselves up, sometimes they have to push themselves down. To push others down, sorry. And there's so many people out there that are determined to do that. But there is enough in the world for us all to survive. And in actual fact, I think the model of practice that I most aspire to have is, in the movies where you got the mine shaft or the elevator shaft, and they've fallen in the shaft, and there's two of them, and then like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out? And all of a sudden they put their backs to each other, link arms, and they move themselves up together, and they both get out at the top and survive.
Yeah.
And I often say to people, don't be the kid in the pool. Be the person in the mine or the elevator shaft. Lift someone else up and help them along the journey, because you don't need to push somebody else down in order to rise yourself up. And so they're some of the legacy things that I think it's just, be the model. If you look around you and you want to create something, and then you're doing these behaviors, go back and go, what am I modeling by this choice or by this action or this behavior? Surround yourself with the right people that are going to be your mine shaft or elevator people, not your kid in the pool. And make sure you're having some fun and joy along the way. Life's too short. So that's some of the legacy stuff that I...
Perfect. Such a teacher, aren't you?
Oh my gosh. I'm very proud of myself. I think I've only sworn once this podcast, and I taught in behavior for a very long time. So I'm actually very proud of myself.
Good girl. Gold stars for you. Well, you've been awesome to chat to, Kylee, today. Absolutely awesome. Do you have any offer that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm coming up to, so I run keynote speaking. So if they put in wisdom in the email, you can get a 20% discount off anything that I'm running at the moment. So if that's individual coaching, I do bulk coaching, and I run an infinite leadership project where we talk about, infinite learning, infinite possibilities, and infinite opportunities. Yes. So anyone that puts wisdom in the contact information automatically get a 20% discount on any of the programs that we offer.
Oh, thank you, Kylee. I really appreciate that. All the details and everything will be in our podcast summary below. But thank you so much again for your time, Kylee. Everyone, be sure to click on the link, and don't forget to subscribe and leave feedback if you can on our episodes. We really do appreciate it. It helps us as well as our guests. So again, Kylee, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Nikki. It's been awesome.
So a sneak peek into a conversation between Kylee and myself, where we were talking about possibly collaborating for a Wisdom on Wisdom workshop. Kylee has an enormous amount of experience here in helping you create a curriculum for your course. So do watch this space.
It's just anyone who's out there looking to share their knowledge, maybe better how they do it, or evolve how they do it, or even just step into it. So I love collaborating with people who can help them get to their goals that they're trying to achieve. So
yeah, 100%. And I often say to people, whatever you do, I don't care if you want to teach juggling, trapeze artist, whatever, I can help you create a curriculum around that. So
awesome.
So my job in schools was to make education accessible, right? So it often revolved in a lot of creative thinking around this is the traditional thing that we've got to teach. Oh my God, that is so boring. I want to blow my brains out. How do we bring it in a way that makes it, engaging and accessible and stuff like that? So there might be some opportunities if people have got idea, they're really good at accounting or they're really good at whatever, but they're not sure how to write a curriculum that's going to be meaningful and impactful, because again, like you said earlier, they do what they know, not necessarily what people need or how to meet that market, because if they're going into it for the right reasons, they'll want to share knowledge. It's just in a way that's accessible and manageable others.
Well, we can call it Create a Curriculum with Kylee.
We can. Oh my gosh. I'm like totally nerded out, man. Like, seriously, I'm like.
Thanking our sponsors today and every episode that we do go live with, Wisdom and the Wisdom on Wisdom events. Be sure to check out details in our summary below. Wisdom is our learning and content management platform for anyone who's sharing their content online through memberships, courses, challenges, creating a community and engaging with their members. All details, like I said, are below in our summary. Inspired by this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, do subscribe and please share it with others. Post about us on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Nikki Kylee, you can follow me on Instagram at Wisedome Podcast, WISEDOME Podcast. I'm Nikki Kylee. Thanks again, and we'll catch up next time.